big that even as this was happening, life in the more affluent districts could go on more or less as normal. The areas of Clifton and Defence, where most of my relatives and friends lived, formed a city within a city. Their wide streets, lush greenery and palatial houses, a world away from the urban warfare of Leari or Arangi. Here the backdrop of violence quickly became mundane. Perhaps a day trip to the beach would be impossible due to a security alert, or dinner plans would have to be rearranged because of a city-wide strike. For all Karachi's vast sprawl, most of its citizens live in a tightly constricted geography, not venturing too far from their locale, lest they stray into danger. Each morning, I sat with my aunt in a marbled-floored living room, overlooking a luxuriant garden where blooming coral trees spilled over a pagoda. The pet parrot, who was loud and surprisingly vicious, squawked in the background, picking up the odd word from conversations. Tellingly, one of his favourites was tamasha, the Urdu word often used to mean commotion, referring to a protest or a riot. Over breakfast, I would look through the English-language newspapers, reaching first for the Express Tribune. It published a crime map every day in its Karachi edition, under headings like shootings and raids and mishaps and bodies found. A half-page infographic mapping out the violence-consuming areas of the city. I would skim through the daily accounts of targeted killings of political workers and gang battles, the latest convulsions in the multiple conflicts that have racked Karachi for decades. From the vantage point of the comfortable living room, the street war unfolding a few miles away felt unreal and distant. Just a head count on a page. The violence had deep roots. Karachi's history is one of migration and rapid expansion. In 1947, Karachi was a port city with a population of fewer than 500,000 people. Today, there are closer to 20 million, more than triple the population of London. When Pakistan was formed out of the bloody partition of India, trainloads of Muslims crossed the border in search of a new homeland, arriving exhausted and brutalized. Karachi was the final stop on the train, and as the refugees were turned away from everywhere else, it was their destination by default. These migrants, who became known as Muhajirs, settled first in sprawling refugee camps and then took up the government jobs left vacant by the Hindus and Sikhs who had fled in the other direction. My grandparents married in 1948, a few months after partition. The wedding celebrations had to be scaled down because Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated that week. Soon afterwards, my grandmother left her home in a Muslim part of northern India to live with my grandfather's family in Karachi. Immediately, she began to volunteer in the refugee camps that engulfed swathes of the city. 2 years later, in 1950, my mother was born. Despite these harsh beginnings, as the capital of a new nation, Karachi was infused with a feeling of hope and possibility. Pakistan was a new country forging a national identity, and this was the city at the centre of it all. This was the Karachi that my mother and grandmother had told me about, a cosmopolitan place full of energy and action. In the decades since partition, Karachi has been home to a series of complex and ever-evolving conflicts, with sectarian and ethnic resentment mingling with politics and organised crime. First was the tension between the Muhajirs and the local Sindhi population. The Sindhis were broadly less educated and resented the newcomers dominating them in business and public sector jobs. The optimism that was Karachi's mood music in the early days of nation